You're listening to Dr. Grimm. Welcome back. Today, I'm prescribing you with a dose of pro-revenge. Let's begin. Teacher makes false claim of me faking an injury, so my mom messes with her career. I, a 15-year-old female, have had a long and elaborate history with injuries, especially breaking my arm. Starting from literally the day I was born, my health has been complicated. I have a few conditions, but none serious enough to impact my daily life. I have a very weak immune system and somewhat easy to break bones. On top of that, I am the definition of clumsy, and I'm also a huge idiot who gets herself into dangerous situations for fun. My mom has obviously known me from birth and knows just the extent of my weird bad luck and health issues. I've broken my arms a collective 13 times over my entire life, and almost every time I got injured or sick, it seems somebody had something to say about it. I don't know why, but teachers just love to say that students that get hurt often are attention-seeking fakers, and a lot of relationships with authority figures have been harmful because of this. Every time, it's the same. For some reason, a teacher doesn't believe me, they call me a liar in front of everyone, I get bullied for a while, and then I have to try and prove that I'm not faking. I could post so many stories about teachers doing this, but this is a story about the time my mom actually managed to get revenge. This all took place around 7th grade. I was 12 at the time, and I had broken my wrist by climbing on top of something I wasn't supposed to, and then falling off like an idiot. My wrist was in a Velcro cast since I'm very allergic to the regular cast material, as they figured out through many cases of trial and error. My teacher, let's call her Miss Tablet since this took place while we were learning about Egyptian tablets, taught history, and our personalities clashed a bit. I'm more of a creative, adventurous, free-thinker type, and she was very conservative, by the book, and proper. We hadn't had any real issues before this, but we just didn't mesh well. She was absent one day and we had a sub in. I knew the sub was one of my teacher's friends. She was also the mom of someone who bullied me. I didn't like her, but I was still respectful in class and just tried to get my work done. She got me in trouble for doodling on my paper once or twice, but other than that, everything was fine, or so I thought. The next day, I went into class like usual. We were working on an assignment about Egypt and their tables when Miss Tablet called me over to her desk. I went over, thinking she'd just get on to me for drawing on the back of my homework or something, only to get bombarded with a bunch of really weird questions. The interaction went something like this. "So, Fire," that's my nickname, "do you know why I've called you up here?" "No, ma'am, I can't say that I do." "How long have you had that cast?" "About a week now. Why?" "Do you really need that cast?" Yes." "Well, the substitute told me she saw you take it off." "It's a cast. I can't take it off. It would hurt." "So if I asked the class, they'd say you need that cast." "Yes." "And if I called your parents right now, they'd say the same thing?" "Yes, they were the ones who took me to the hospital." And she did this in front of the whole class. I was eventually dismissed, and people looked at me weird for the rest of the class. As I later learned, apparently the substitute had told Miss Tablet that I'd taken off my cast as soon as I left class. I didn't, and that I threw it in my locker like, "Ha ha, I'm getting away with doing less work." So basically, she pretended I was a bad guy in a crappy high school movie. I don't know why she said this, but it had my teacher convinced that I was a liar and a fake. I technically could remove my cast since it was Velcro, but that would have been extremely painful, and it's not like I could just walk around without it. I wasn't going to make a big deal about it at the time, but it turns out she was serious about calling my parents. But she made the mistake of calling my mom. Now, me and my mother don't have a perfect relationship. She has anger issues, so we don't always get along well. But she loves me very much and doesn't let people like this mess with me if she can stop it. According to my mom, Miss Tablet called her all cocky and said things like, "Apparently your daughter is wearing a cast. Did you know that?" And, "Well, we all know how dramatic teenage girls can be, especially unique kids like her." Apparently, she even threatened to have me suspended before my mom stopped her and tore her to shreds for talking about me like that. I don't think I'm allowed to repeat what was said, but by the end, Miss Tablet had to retreat with her tail tucked between her legs. She started being even more cold to me after that day and started giving me unfair detentions for not sitting still and doodling on the side of my worksheets. Even then, outside of school, we went to the same art studio sometimes. Weird that someone who hates art so much likes to paint. She turned the art director against me and got me put into a lower class. When my mom found out about this, she started the real revenge. My mom has never been a parent-teacher association mom. She honestly can't stand most of the PTA members, and their kids are chosen as favorites at my school and use this power to bully others, including me and my friends. My mom is, however, friends with a very lovely woman on the county's school board, which has more power than the PTA. She told her friend everything that happened and supplied all the doctor's notes required to prove that I needed my cast. Her friend managed to convince the rest of the school board that Miss Tablet was discriminating against an impaired student, given her comments about me being slower at work and just wearing the cast to slack off, along with detentions related to me not sitting still when she knew I had nervous movements and slight ADHD. At the art studio, my mother pulled me from the class. I took it upon myself to inform the fellow kids about why, and rumors spread quickly. Soon enough, kids were getting pulled left and right, and my art teacher was pulling at strings to try and get the situation under control. I actually think the studio closed temporarily before reopening again. Miss Tablet was suspended for a week to go under investigation, and it turns out she treated a lot of the unique, as she put it, students in a similar way. She was verbally reprimanded by 2 different departments, and instead of getting her standard raise over the next 3 years, she'll only get half that. Not only that, but she had to retake a course on how to properly treat students, and if she's ever caught crossing the line again, she'll lose tenure. She'll just be getting her bonus back at the start of next school year, and I'd just like to say I hope she learned her lesson. One final note before you go, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers, which will allow me to provide you with even more quality audio entertainment. Click the subscribe button today. Thank you for listening to Dr. Grimm. Have safe travels and be well.